In Japan in the year 2023, ordinary people board a train like any other day. They're occupied with various tasks. Some are engrossed in their phones, others are chatting with friends online, and many are planning their evening ahead. Little do they know, their lives are about to take an unexpected turn. Suddenly, the train picks up speed and strange occurrences begin. Objects vanish mysteriously, and alarming earthquake alerts flood their phones. As the train enters a dark tunnel, it screeches to a halt, leaving passengers disoriented. In a frenzy, they rush to exit the train, only to find themselves in a bewildering scene. The once familiar cityscape is now a chaotic mess, reclaimed by nature. Buildings lay in ruins, swallowed by greenery, and to their shock, all but one train carriage has vanished into thin air, leaving them stranded in the fifth carriage. Confusion and fear grip the passengers as they try to make sense of their surreal surroundings. As time goes by, the passengers start getting to know each other. One man, Shirahama, who works as a firefighter, takes a look at the injured people and suggests investigating the tunnel behind the train car. He's joined by a girl named Katana and another guy named Kayashima, who are also curious about what happened. Meanwhile, back in the city, the police are puzzled about the whereabouts of the last two train cars, while the rest of the train and its passengers are unharmed. The three volunteers venture into the tunnel and trek through the dark passage for a considerable time. Suddenly, they spot a glimmer of light up ahead and hasten toward it. However, upon emerging, they are taken aback. Instead of the familiar sights of skyscrapers and technology from the year 2023, they find themselves in the midst of a vast, barren desert. Stunned by the sight, the trio returns to their fellow passengers to share what they've seen. At first, many are skeptical of their account, but when Hayashima presents a video recording of the surroundings, they have no choice but to acknowledge the strange reality before them. As hours pass, the passengers grow anxious, awaiting rescue. During this time, one of the girls, Reni, secretly rummages through Hayashima's belongings and discovers a letter bearing the seal of the criminal department. This discovery leads her to suspect that Hayashima may be involved in criminal activities. In a moment of desperation, Reni pilfers food from Katana's bag but quickly discards it when she feels she's been caught. Hayashima, unaware of the theft, picks up the discarded package and returns it to the train. Just as Katana notices the missing food and sees it in Hayashima's possession, the passengers accuse him of theft. Adding to the turmoil, Reni reveals the discovery of the letter from the colony. Feeling insulted by the accusations, Hayashima denies any wrongdoing and announces his intention to leave. At this moment, Shirahama takes out a box filled with ripe fruits and kindly offers to share them with everyone. While Katana is busy distributing the fruits, one of the group members decides to review the video he recorded earlier. The footage clearly reveals Reni sneakily taking some of the food. It dawns on them that Hayashima is innocent. Without wasting a moment, Shirahama and Katana rush after Hayashima. They manage to prevent him from stumbling into a dangerous ditch, saving him from potential harm. Gratefully, Hayashima reveals that he works as a hairdresser and is already 30 years old. However, he remains tight-lipped about the mysterious letter he received from the colony. As night descends, some passengers struggle to find rest, their minds preoccupied with worries about their uncertain future. The following morning brings with it a realization among the passengers that they might never make it back home. Shirahama attempts to rally everyone together, but a friend advises him against taking on the responsibility for others' lives. Amidst the discussions, a firefighter admits his guilt over an accident that left his colleague paralyzed. Feeling a sense of duty, he resolves to assist anyone in need. Eventually, they regroup and catch up with those who had wandered off. Through persuasion, they convince them to return to the carriage, emphasizing the importance of solving their problems collectively. Witnessing this, Hayashima reminisces about his incarcerated brother, realizing that the letter in his possession was from him. He carries a burden of guilt for his brother's fate and feels responsible for his upbringing. Meanwhile, a pair of curious passengers venture into the surrounding area and stumble upon the remnants of a towering structure. This discovery baffles them, especially since recent news had reported its construction, slated for completion in 2026. Additionally, they find a can in the forest, its date indicating the year 2026. A biologist among them encounters a peculiar plant exhibiting genetic modifications that typically span over 30 years. It gradually dawns on them that they've somehow been transported to a distant future Earth, a realization far from comforting. In 2023, everyone was talking about the disappearance of 2 carriages with lots of people. It was getting dark and many felt really sad. Katana and Shirahama put some containers on the roof of one carriage, hoping for rain. The next morning, a scientist pointed out that there were lots of plants around, which meant there was probably water nearby. Some young people decided to explore the forest. On the way, Hayashima told everyone that his parents were criminals, and then someone spotted a frog. That meant they were close to water, but there were big cliffs ahead that they could only climb with ropes. They went back to the train, cut some wires, and went back to the cliffs. Shirahama climbed up and saw a waterfall, but when he looked around, he realized they were near the sea, not Mount Fuji. He went back and told everyone, and they started wondering what had happened to their planet. That night, everyone went to sleep, but one old passenger, Tanaka, saw a stranger. When he told everyone, they didn't believe him. Then it started to rain, which helped them collect water and even bake. Meanwhile, the scientist kept studying the plants and found some they could eat. Katana ate a poisonous berry but luckily didn't die. When she recovered, everyone realized they had to do something to survive. They started making things out of bamboo and even used their bank cards as knives. The young people brought water from the waterfall and made soup from the plants. But after dinner, some people got sick because there were poisonous berries in the pot. Someone remembered seeing Tanaka near the pot, but he was missing. Shirahama went to look for him but fell and lost his torch. When he came back, he didn't find Tanaka but found Hayashima's lost barber tools. The next morning, the scientist said he was going to look for a river. His friends went with him, but they ran into a stranger who hurt the scientist and ran away. The men carried him back to the train, where luckily, there was a young person studying medicine. They were able to give him first aid for his injuries. The rest of the group pitched in as best they could, offering assistance and sending prayers his way. Later on, there was a surprise when Tanaka emerged from the forest. It turned out he had experience working with a security company and could offer valuable insights into setting up traps around their campsite. Reni approached Hayashima, asking for a favor with her hair, which sparked a line forming of others seeking his help. Meanwhile, Shirama and Katana noticed a young person caught in one of the traps. Fortunately, the teenager managed to free themselves and dashed off. The group chased after him, finding themselves near a river. The boy requested they wait for him there before vanishing into the woods. Hayashima, noticing their absence, caught up with them. Just as he did, the teenager reappeared and guided them to carriage number 6, which had somehow ended up several kilometers away from the 5th carriage. The passengers from the 5th carriage were greeted warmly by Yumoto, the leader of the group from the 6th carriage. They learned that their carriage had been fortunate to be situated near the river, providing them with access to fresh water and fish. Additionally, they had a skilled builder among them, who had helped set up a camp and even constructed a kitchen and an unused toilet. Among the new arrivals, there was a desire to find the person responsible for injuring their biologist. When they confronted him, he admitted acting out of fear, believing they posed a threat. He apologized sincerely, bowing deeply. Yumoto acknowledged his apology, expressing his belief in the possibility of altering the past. The man shared a startling revelation with them. In the early days of their ordeal, they had discovered a small boat on the river. Through some ingenuity, he managed to repair the radio, picking up a signal from Canada mentioning the year 2060. According to what he had heard, a catastrophic event had occurred in 2026. A massive asteroid impact causing widespread devastation. Billions perished instantly, and the ensuing earthquakes and tsunamis wreaked havoc worldwide. The resulting dust cloud led to the extinction of many species. What made this disaster particularly tragic was its man-made origin. Space debris, including satellites launched by various entities, had collided, altering the asteroid's trajectory. This knowledge underscored the urgency of returning to their own time to avert such a calamity. After seeing what happened in the 6th carriage, the passengers got an idea. They wanted to build a bath near the river. Meanwhile, Tanaka wasn't feeling well. He started making a doll out of branches and talking to it. By morning, the bath was ready. People hadn't bathed in hot water for many days, so it felt refreshing. They also washed their clothes. While exploring the riverbank, some of the guys found a strange stone. Yumoto, the leader, wanted to know more about it. He sent his people to search for it, but Rini noticed some strangers nearby. One of the guys accidentally mentioned that their leader believed the stone could help them get back home. There was an argument among the girls about whether they should return or not. During the argument, R accidentally pushed Katana, who fell and uncovered a layer of soil, revealing a dead body. Meanwhile, Tanaka read in the newspaper about a murderer on the loose. Around the same time, Rani and Katana were attacked by guys from the 6th carriage. However, Rani managed to escape and ran back to her own carriage. She told everyone about the discovered corpse while Katana fled into the forest, escaping from the attackers. In the 5th carriage, they decided to make weapons. Shirahama and Hayashima went to seek help from their neighbors but couldn't find anyone. Katana, on the other hand, made it to a boat. Yumoto had to admit to the guys that he had killed a passenger who had become aggressive and attacked others with a knife. That's how he became the leader. The guys hoped Katana would return home, but she didn't. They decided to confront the 6th carriage and punish those responsible. They set out to find Katana again. She hid in the boat when Yumoto arrived. He pretended to make a call, but Katana noticed the cut wires. Yumoto confessed that he didn't want to return to their past life. He wanted to build a new society there. Then he tied up Katana and locked her in the cabin, where her cries for help couldn't be heard. In the morning, the passengers in the 5th train car were getting ready to start a fight with their neighbors. But then, one of the women had a different idea. She suggested they back off and find a safe place to hide. While this was happening, some guys from the 6th car went to check out what they could find from the neighbors. But things didn't go as planned. They got caught in traps set by the neighbors, and that's when the trouble began. Soon, everyone from all 6 train cars joined in, and there were more men among them. What started as a small fight quickly turned into a big battle. Just when things were getting out of hand, Katana, who had escaped earlier, showed up. He accused Yumoto of lying about something. Yumoto had to come clean and admit he had been deceiving them to keep up morale. But even after hearing his explanation, the passengers decided to kick him out as their leader. Before he left, Yumoto gave them a journal he found on the ship. It had information about a tower that might help them. Meanwhile, the group that went searching for a safe place stumbled upon the tower and found some glowing pieces of rock there. Back in 2023, scientist Ray was going through video recordings and noticed something strange. A wormhole appeared in the tunnel when the 2 train cars disappeared. It seemed like some kind of distortion in space and time. The passengers read through the journal Yumoto left behind and found out the exact date of the disaster. They also had one of those glowing rocks, which seemed to have a really strong magnetic pull. One of the passengers remembered seeing something like a shooting star on the day they left. In the past, Ray studied the same event and figured out that it was probably a flare from a supernova explosion in the future. A supernova happens when a star explodes at the end of its life, sending out a lot of energy. This explosion might have caused the wormhole that swallowed up the train cars, so now they needed to figure out how to open that wormhole again. As evening came, a fierce storm started. People had to find a safer place than the train car. Tanaka opened the doors at the back, leading into the tunnel. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind grabbed his doll and pulled it into the wormhole caused by the storm. But once the storm passed, the wormhole disappeared, and in 2023, scientists found Tanaka's doll. In the future, people figured out that to make the wormhole appear, they needed a big energy source. So they went searching for old power lines, digging up each post they could find. They stumbled upon an electrical substation where some equipment was still working. They managed to redirect enough electricity into the tunnel to make the wormhole stable. Just as the next storm started brewing, powerful enough to take them back to the past, it was night. With the substation's power, the wormhole opened up and everyone got into the carriage except for Tanaka, who chose not to go back. The carriage got swallowed by the hole, zooming off into space and time until security service folks opened its doors, saying they'd arrived on May 1st, 2026. That meant there were only a few months left before a huge asteroid hit. After going through some checks, the passengers showed officials bits of the meteorite and weird future plans. But the officials didn't buy the stories about the end of the world. Later on, though, the internet buzzed about the incident, and the time travelers found fans who kept the interest alive. Meanwhile, a scientist named Ray started believing the travelers because he'd been tracking the asteroid. One of the passengers made an online plea to warn ordinary people about the danger. Another, who used to be high up in the government, went to talk to the Minister of Defense. She listened and reported back that the government was taking them seriously, getting ready to launch a missile to change the asteroid's path away from Earth. As time went by, the day of disaster loomed closer. The travelers decided to meet up to see if they could stop it together. But the military succeeded in changing the meteorite's path, saving humanity from total destruction. It was a strange series, mixing different theories about the end of the world, and its ending was pretty relevant, showing that everyone's actions affect life on Earth and that it's up to all of us to take care of our planet. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means a lot.